All right, so first we're going to do a quick review. Well, this is for you, Miss Womack. So let's just say this is how you would introduce maybe a topic that you were introducing. So you'd start off by saying, let's do a little review of absolute value. We know that the absolute value is a distance from zero, so let's look at this problem right here, right? The absolute value of x equals 3. So your job is to determine what values for x will make you 3 units away from 0. So there are two options, right? There's 3 units between 0 and 3, and there's 3 units between 0 and negative 3. So your answers have to be 2, because you just have to be 3 units away from 0. So you'd always have two options. Say you want to be 6 units away from 0. Well, then you'd have 6 and you'd have negative 6. Alright, so now I want you guys to try. I want the students to try now. So you're looking at the absolute value of negative 5. That means you want to be 5 units away from 0. So 5 is 5 units away from 0. And negative 5 is 5 units away from 0. So what values for x work? Well, x can be negative 5 and x could be positive 5. So there are your two options. And the students would try that problem on their own. Okay, so now let's look at inequalities. So x is greater than 5. How would I graph that? So first of all, when you have a greater than symbol, you want to look at every value that's bigger than 5. That's basically all they're asking you. But remember that you can have an open circle or you could have a closed circle. A closed circle means equal to as well. An open circle would be either greater than or less than, whereas a closed circle you have to include that point, so that would be the equal to, or you can have a less than or equal to. So this is just a greater than symbol, so we have to use an open circle at 5. We want everything bigger than 5. Well, 6 is bigger than 5, 7 is bigger than 5, 8, 9, 10. So we know our arrow points in this direction. Alright, now you try. So we want all those values that are less than or equal to negative 3. So you guys are going to do that. Now we have an open circle or a closed circle. You should know we have a closed circle. Less than, well, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6, those are all less than negative 3. If you want to do greater than, you'd go in the opposite direction. So just as a little tip or hint, this way is less than, or this direction, I should say, less than, and this way is greater than. So that's all you have to think about when you're doing these graphs. Alright, now, so what have we seen so far? Let's review. Let's recall the problems we have completed so far. So students, can you recall the problems we've seen so far? Hopefully the students would say these problems. This is the ones that you tried. Here's another one that you tried. So we have both absolute value problems and we have inequalities. Now what we're going to do is combine these together and make absolute value inequalities. So let's look at an example. So we're going to use this as an example. The absolute value of x is greater than 5. So remember, with absolute value, you have to look at the positive end and you have to look at the negative end. So that's why we have our little positive 5 here and our negative 5 there. So when you're setting them up, you need to make sure you have the negative accounted for here and the positive accounted for here. This is an actual positive, but the sign's not there, right? So then you look at each one separately. So remember, hopefully you guys have done inequalities in the past. Remember that when you divide by a negative number, the sign changes. Not sure if you guys have already talked about that or not, but just remember the sign changes or switches from greater than to less than or less than to greater than, depending on the problem. Let's finish up this problem. So far with this, we already know how to do inequalities. We've done those. So if we looked at x is greater than 5, we have an open circle at 5. Greater than is this direction. So now let's look at the other one that we have now is negative 5. So we want to, again, put an open circle because it's not equal to. We want everything that's less than negative 5. So remember, less than is this direction. Notice with this problem, you are going in the both answers are going in the opposite direction of each other. We'll talk about the meaning behind that and why it looks like that and what do we call that when we see those answers like that. And how does this symbol play a role in those answers. Next, now let's look at x. The absolute value of x is less than or equal to 5. Remember, you have to look at it from both sides. You have to look at it from the negative side and the positive side. Looking at it from the positive side is easy because x, anything less than or equal to 5, so that means we have a closed circle at 5. Less than is that direction. Then again, remember when you divide by a negative, your sign changes. And you have all those values that are greater than negative 5. When you go greater than, remember greater than is this direction. So notice that these two answers intersect each other. That's why we call this an intersection. If we look back at the previous one, this is called a union because you have to union the answers together because they go in opposite directions of each other. So this would be a union. And then we're going to talk about like the sign. Notice this symbol is greater than, and when you have intersection, it's less than. So we have to think about those things as well. Now we're going to try a little bit more complicated problems, and you can go through these problems with your students, and then you can have them try this problem. All right, that's it for now. Ms. Womack, we could talk about this a little bit later. Thanks.